The year is 208, a time of immense turmoil and fragmentation in China. The once glorious Han dynasty, which had reigned for 4 centuries, was now a hollow shell of its former self. Power had splintered, falling into the hands of ambitious warlords who carved out their own domains. Among these figures, one stood paramount in power and ambition, the Chancellor Cao Dora. Having consolidated his control over the vast northern plains, he held the emperor as a political puppet. Cao's authority was absolute in the north, his commands echoing with the weight of the imperial court. His gaze now turned southward, towards the fertile land south of the great Yangtze River. He dreamed of total unification, of bringing all of China under his singular, unchallengeable rule. To achieve this, he amassed a colossal army, a force the likes of which had rarely been seen. Estimates of his troop strength varied, with some claiming he commanded nearly 1 million men. This mighty host began its inexorable march south, a tide of iron and ambition. His first major obstacle was the province of Jing, a crucial territory governed by Liu Biao. However, the aging Liu Biao died before Xiao's arrival, plunging the province into a succession crisis. His younger son, influenced by his advisors, chose to surrender the province without a fight. This swift victory handed Cao a significant strategic advantage and a powerful fleet. A guest in Jing province at the time was the wandering warlord Liu Bai, a distant relative of the Han emperors. Known for his benevolence and righteousness, Liu Bai commanded deep loyalty from his followers. Refusing to serve Cao, whom he viewed as a usurper, Liu Bai was forced to flee south. A great exodus of common people and officials from Jing chose to follow him, slowing his retreat. Cao's elite cavalry eventually caught up, leading to a disastrous battle at Changban. In the chaos, Liu Bai's family was lost, saved only by the heroic efforts of his general Zhao Yun. Having barely escaped with his life, Liu Bai was now a refugee with only a handful of loyal retainers. His chief strategist, the brilliant Zhuge Liang, offered a single path to survival: an alliance. The target of this proposed alliance was the young warlord Sun Quan, ruler of the southeastern lands. Sun Quan had inherited his domain from his father and older brother, and had proven to be a capable leader. His territory, known as Wu, was protected by the natural barrier of the Yangtze River. Zhuge Liang traveled alone to Wu to persuade Sun Quan to join forces against the northern threat. Upon his arrival, he found Sun Quan's court deeply divided. One faction, led by the scholar Zhang Zhao, advocated for surrender, overwhelmed by Cao's reputation. They argued that resistance was futile and would only lead to the destruction of their land. Another faction, the military leaders, led by the commander Zhou Yu, burned with a desire to fight. Zhuge Liang first engaged the civil officials in a sharp, intellectual debate, systematically dismantling their arguments. He pointed out the flaws in Cao's massive army. They were northerners, unused to naval warfare. He also noted that they were exhausted from their long march and susceptible to southern diseases. Finally, he met with Sun Quan and the chief commander, Zhao Yu. Zhuge Liang masterfully goaded Zhou Yu, questioning his resolve and suggesting Cao's personal interest in Zhou Yu's beautiful wife. Enraged and resolute, Zhou Yu smashed the corner of a table, declaring his unwavering decision to fight. Sun Quan, moved by his commander's passion and Zhuge Liang's logic, drew his own sword. He sliced off a corner of his desk and vowed that anyone who spoke of surrender again would share its fate. The alliance was sealed. Sun Quan placed Zhou Yu in command of his 30,000 elite naval troops. Liu Bai's forces, including his sworn brothers Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, numbered around 20,000. Together, the allied army of 50,000 prepared to face a force that outnumbered them more than 10 to 1. Cao Cao's fleet sailed down the Yangtze, an intimidating armada that stretched for miles. Soldiers, however, were not sailors and suffered greatly from seasickness. To solve this problem, a northern advisor suggested a seemingly clever solution. Cao Cao ordered his ships to be chained together, stem to stern, to increase stability. The linked vessels formed massive, floating platforms, reducing the swaying and making his men more comfortable. This decision, born of a desire for stability, would prove to be a catastrophic tactical error. The Allied forces established their camp on the southern bank of the Yangtze, at a place known as Red Cliffs. Zhou Yu and Zhuge Liang, the two master strategists, began to devise a plan. They both independently concluded that a conventional attack was impossible. The only viable strategy was to use fire. The chained ships of Cao Cao's fleet were a perfect, inescapable target for a fire attack. The plan required two key elements: a way to get the fire ships close and a favorable wind. The first part of the plan was entrusted to the veteran General Huang Gai. Huang Gai proposed a ruse. He would pretend to defect to Cao Cao's side. To make the deception convincing, he publicly and violently disagreed with Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu, playing his part, ordered the old general to be brutally flogged. News of this conflict and Huang Gai's subsequent desire to defect quickly reached Cao Cao's camp. Cao Cao, though suspicious by nature, was arrogant and believed the news. He eagerly awaited the arrival of the defecting general and his squadron. A squadron of ships was prepared under Huang Gai's command. These were not warships, but vessels packed with dry reeds, oil-soaked kindling, and sulfur. They were floating bombs, designed for one purpose: to burn. The second crucial element was the wind, which typically blew from the northwest in winter. A northwesterly wind would blow the fire ships back towards the Allied fleet. They needed a southeasterly wind, a rare occurrence for that time of year. Zhuge Liang, a master of astronomy and meteorology, predicted that such a wind would soon arrive. He famously set up an altar to pray for the wind, adding to his mystical reputation. As the night of the planned attack approached, the air grew still. Then, as Zhuge Liang had foretold, a breeze began to stir from the southeast. The wind grew stronger, blowing directly from the Allied camp towards Cao Cao's fleet. The moment had arrived. Huang Gai's squadron of fire ships set sail, their banners proclaiming his defection. Cao Cao's soldiers saw them approaching and cheered, believing their own forces were about to be strengthened. As the ships drew near, Huang Gai's men set the vessels ablaze. The sailors then dove into the cold river, escaping in small boats. Driven by the strong southeasterly wind, the unmanned fire ships became raging infernos. They crashed with devastating force into the front line of Cao Cao's chained fleet. The fire spread with terrifying speed from one chained ship to the next. The vast, interconnected fleet became a single, gigantic funeral pyre. Panic erupted among Cao Cao's troops. Trapped on the burning vessels, thousands perished in the flames or drowned in the river. Simultaneously, the main Allied fleet launched a full-scale assault. Their warships rammed into the disorganized enemy, their soldiers boarding the burning ships. The noise of battle, the roar of the fire, and the screams of men filled the night. Qiao land camps were also attacked, adding to the chaos. Xiao Qiao watched in horror from the shore as his invincible armada was utterly annihilated. He had no choice but to order a full retreat. The retreat was as disastrous as the battle itself. The Allied forces pursued them relentlessly, harrying their flanks. To escape, Cao Cao's men had to cross treacherous, muddy swamps. Many of the sick and wounded were ordered to trample the mud with reeds to create a path. Countless men were trampled to death or drowned in the mire. Cao Cao himself narrowly escaped capture several times, thanks to the loyalty of his bodyguards. He finally made it back to the north with only a fraction of his grand army. The Battle of Red Cliffs was a decisive victory for the Allied forces. It was a triumph of strategy and ingenuity over brute force. The defeat permanently halted Cao Cao's ambition to conquer the south. Never again would he command such a large fleet on the Yangtze. The victory secured the survival of both Liu Bai and Sun Quan. Liu Bai, with Zhuge Liang's guidance, went on to capture Jing province and establish his own power base. This would eventually lead to the founding of the Kingdom of Shuhan. Sun Quan's control over the southeast was now undisputed. His domain would become the powerful kingdom of Eastern Wu. Cao Cao's territory in the north would evolve into the Kingdom of Cao Wei. The Battle of Red Cliffs directly set the stage for the tripartite division of China. This new era would be known as the Three Kingdoms period. It was an age of heroes, of epic battles, and of brilliant strategies. The clash at Red Cliffs became one of the most celebrated events in Chinese history. It has been immortalized in poetry, opera, and literature for centuries. The story of the battle highlights the importance of intelligence and adaptability. It demonstrates how a smaller, determined force can defeat a larger, overconfident enemy. The alliance, though temporary, was a masterpiece of diplomacy. The fire attack remains a classic example of military genius. The characters involved, Qiao Cao, Liu Bai, Sun Quan, Zhuge Liang, and Zhao Yu, became legendary figures. Their decisions and rivalries shaped the destiny of a nation. The echoes of their conflict at Red Cliffs would reverberate for generations. The political landscape of China was irrevocably altered by this single, fiery engagement. The dream of a unified Han Empire died in the flames on the Yangtze. From its ashes, a new and dynamic era of Chinese history was born. The southern lands, once seen as peripheral, now held two of the three thrones of China. Naval power proved to be a decisive factor in the country's division. The battle underscored the strategic importance of the Yangtze River as a national boundary. Zhou Yu's fame skyrocketed, cementing his position as a brilliant commander. Zhuge Liang's reputation for being a near-supernatural strategist was solidified. Liu Bai gained a physical territory, transforming from a wandering leader to a landed warlord. Sun Quan's authority in the south became absolute and his kingdom secure. For Cao Cao, it was a humbling and infuriating lesson in the dangers of arrogance. The battle was a testament to the idea that unity of purpose can overcome overwhelming numbers. The southern soldiers fought to protect their homes and families. Qiao Cao's northern troops were a conquering army, far from their own lands. This difference in morale played a significant, intangible role in the outcome. The story of Red Cliffs is a complex tapestry of politics, personality, and military strategy. It serves as a timeless epic of defiance against seemingly insurmountable odds. Events of that fiery night on the Yangtze would forever be etched into the soul of a nation. The clash was more than a battle. It was the crucible in which a new epoch was forged. The alliance, though successful, was fraught with suspicion between Zhao Yu and Zhuge Liang. Zhou Yu was jealous of Zhuge Liang's intellect and saw him as a future threat. This underlying tension would define the future of the Sun-Liu relationship. The battle's legacy is also one of technological innovation in warfare. It highlighted the devastating potential of fire in naval combat. The use of espionage and deception was central to the Allied victory. Wang Gai's feigned defection is a classic example of a successful military ruse. The battle also showed the critical importance of local knowledge and adapting to the environment. Xiao Cao's failure was, in part, a failure to respect the southern climate and geography. The story continues to be a source of strategic lessons for leaders today. The epic clash at Red Cliffs remains a powerful narrative of human drama and historical significance.